Welcome to Cornerstone Horsemanship. I'm Greta Cummings.
And I'm Sheri Billings. In our last episode, we talked about rope halters and our leads, and how we tie our leads to our rope halters. So often we're working young horses here in the barn, and we don't know our expectations of how they'll stand tied. So how would you recommend I tie a horse up in your barn?
That's a really good point. Something I don't think a lot of people give enough thought to when tying their horse. So with a horse, like our training horses, we don't know what to expect out of them, so we want to make sure they're tied to something solid. And there's nothing more solid to tie to than to the beam of the barn. All right, so here we are at our post. We're going to tie our horse up. So Sheri, how do you tie your horses up?
Yeah, I always have a really long rope, because usually they're green and I'm training and I got my training lead, which is about 13, 14 feet long. And Chaco here, I gotta back him up. But because it's so long, I just loop it around, make a loop out of it and double it up. And I go about their eye height, their head height, or higher. That way they don't get their foot in it. Bring the loop around. And then I put it between the tail and the part that hooks to the horse. I twist it, and then I bring it around and feed it through the loop. Now there's all kinds of things that we want to be careful about for safety reasons. Is when I pull this and my horse decides to pull back, I want to make sure my fingers aren't stuck in there, because that could really pinch a finger off even. So we'll want to actually push the loop in. And then if you got a mouthy horse, which we tend to have a lot of mouthy horses, and they like to untie themselves, because the whole purpose of this is to have that quick release, and they can pull it loose. So to avoid the mouthy horse to untie himself, I'll push it in, which I shouldn't have my fingers in there, and then I'll just take the tail and daisy chain it through the loop. That way they can't get themselves untied. Now if there's like they're pulling back, or we have an accident happening, I can come over and grab it real quick here and pull and release it.
Yep, that's the whole point of anytime you tie a horse up, you want to make sure it's always with some sort of a quick release knot.
Now, there's no way to tie, there's 100 ways to tie a knot. We just recommend that you tie one that's a quick release. Now, you tie a little bit differently.
I do. It's real similar to what you do. I loop it around the post, and I go between the lead and the tail, but I take the tail and I go up and over the loop. So it's got that loop secure, and again, push it through and make a loop, and again, pull it through if you've got a mouthy horse or one that can, magically untie itself.
Yes.
But yeah, that'll hold that knot secure. And I like these because you have a horse, even yours, you have a horse that does pull back, spooks, sets back, gets mad, whatever. This is really easy to untie versus some other knots. So that's just what we've settled in to use in with our horses when we tie up.
So why don't you show them again how you tie that in slower, and I'll step out of the frame again. Okay.
So we've got the rope around the post. I'm going to bring the loop between the lead attached to the horse and the tail. And now I'm going to take the tail up and over the loop. I'm going to come around the lead, push the loop through like that, and there my horse is tied, and secure it that way. So here we've got our horse tied, and he's standing very comfortably. His head's not too high, but the way we have him tied, he can't drop his head down and get a foot caught over it or anything. That's another thing that I see happen a lot, is the horse gets their foot caught over the rope, and then they panic, and then you have a mess, and then you have a shorter lead rope because you got to cut him loose. So we want to make sure that they can rest comfortably like he is, but can't get themselves in a pickle. Anything else you want to add?
No, I want you to be aware when you go to tie your horse up the next time that you notice what you're tying to. If it's a corral panel that's not attached to fence posts, I would recommend do not tie on corral panels.
Right.
A horse, as soon as they start backing away, even if they don't pull back, and all of a sudden that panel starts to move, it will spook them, and they'll keep on moving back until
And then you have a mess.
And then you have a mess.
Yeah.
Gates are not a good thing because most gates sit on pegs. So sometimes they'll sit there and rub their heads while they're tied, and they'll pop that gate off the pegs, and then that causes a mess.
Well, it does. And same thing too is that gate can move. If it startles them because it moves, again, you've got another mess.
Mm-hmm.
Like Sheri says, you can pop the gate off the pegs. Anything can happen. So always make sure you're tied to something secure that's not going to move and not going to startle your horse. And you don't give them enough rope to hang themselves.
Very good. It's all about safety.
It is. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you.
And the horses you ride
From our barn to yours.